Hey everyone, welcome to Vet Visit. I'm Dr. Hansika Singh and I'm a veterinarian. So by now you all know that I opened my clinic few months back. But before I started off, starting everything from scratch seemed like a daunting task. But then with the help of my seniors' guidance, everything seemed doable. So if you're also planning to begin your own clinic and you know little or none about what goes into a clinic and how much money does it take, then this video is definitely for you. So without wasting any time, let's get straight into it. First, let's start with the most important thing, which is the location of your clinic. So while selecting your clinic's location, keep in mind the following points. Number 1, good visibility. Number 2, your clinic should be located in market space close to residential areas. Then easily accessible to public transit and preferably at ground floor. Sufficient parking space would be a good add-on. And try to locate yourself in the close vicinity of your clinic. And finally, once you have decided the clinic's location, don't forget to add it on Google Maps. In this video, I'll also keep talking about the finances simultaneously. So if we talk about the minimum space required to start a clinic, 300 square feet would be a good minimum decent space. Now, needless to say, your overall financial budget also plays an important role in it, because more the space, higher would be the recurring monthly rent. So if some of you do not know, if you decide a property and rent it out, you would have to give the landlord 1 month of rent in advance and a security deposit, which is usually the rent of 2 months in advance. So for example, you rent out a property and the rent is about 50,000 per month, then you would have to give the landlord rupees 1,50,000 in advance. Next, coming to the layout. So once you have decided the location and the services of your clinic, you would then need to prepare a layout, as in what services to play at what corner, and make the partitions accordingly. So in this video, I'll take an example of a basic clinic which will have an OPD, grooming section and pet shop of about 500 square feet area. Now, if you want to go ahead with aluminum partitioning, that can alone cost you about 1 lakh easily. And if your space is absolutely raw, then along with the partitioning, you would also need false ceiling and the flooring. That can easily cross 1.5 lakhs. The cost would obviously depend on the specific work requirement, its quality, the location and the space of your clinic. So while making an estimate, you can add or subtract a rough amount. Now let's talk about the interiors. So for the pharmacy, you would need racks like these. I chose these wooden racks, but of course the price would depend upon the material that you use and its quality and the numbers. So something like this can cost you about 25,000. This is a carpenter work. You can also opt for the racks that are available readily in the market. So for the display of pet product items, you can choose stainless steel frames like these. This can cost you about 9,000. On the other hand, which is the wired framework, and those wired frame would cost you a little less. Now let's start with the equipments needed for a basic clinical setup. First, coming to the examination table. So a basic examination table like this can cost you about 10,000. And if you wish to customize these tables with cabinets and drawers, the cost can easily increase to 25,000 or 30,000 per table. So at the start, I think 2 tables like these as OPD tables would be sufficient, and one of these tables you can have as the surgical table. Kidney trays of 2 different sizes, then forceps and scissors, surgical holding tray to keep these vials. This won't cost you more than approx 1,500. A weighing scale, and it would cost you about 6,000. Now if you also wish to incorporate a grooming section in your clinic, then for that you would need a couple of things. So let's start with them one by one. First of all, you would need a bathing tub. So mine costed me about 35,000. You can also choose for a cemented area. Another thing needed would be a grooming table. This costed me about 10,000. And a good quality dryer. So a pet dryer would cost you of about 12-13,000. There has to be plumber work done as well. It costed me about 9,000 with all the fittings. And then a good quality pet trimmer. Usually Kodos trimmer is very much used. It costed me about 4,000, and apart from this you would also need separate blades for it. So each blade would cost you about 600 rupees. And apart from this, other grooming essentials like of course shampoos and towels and nail trimmer, cotton, all of these things that you want, and of course a cabinet to store all these things. Cabinet can cost you about 4 to 5,000, and all the grooming essentials that I just mentioned, that can cost you about 2 to 3,000. And coming to other equipments like machines for the blood tests, X-ray, ultrasound machine, honestly you won't need those machines at the beginning of your clinic, because of course these machines cost in lakhs, and at the start you won't be able to recover the cost of those machines. So the best thing to do would be to associate your clinic with a nearby veterinary lab for these diagnostics. And coming to the blood test, urine, stool or skin scraping tests, for that you can collect the sample at your clinic and send them to those labs. Now coming to the medicine section, the medicines which would be needed are the injections, syringes, vials, vaccines, etc., plus the basic medicines needed for the pharmacy. This would collectively roughly cost you about rupees 50,000. So for a new clinic, my advice would be that keep only few pieces of each medicine. Now coming to the pet shop area, do not stock up too much of dog or cat food. So the food section can be later on added up depending upon what is the customer requirement. But yes, at the start you can definitely keep the basic grooming hygiene products and other things like biscuits or maybe some treats as well, collars, leashes, toys, etc. So all these items costed me roughly about 15,000, and I think in this amount you can start with your basic pet shop material. Now we'll talk about the furniture needed for your clinic. So first, of course, the basic table and chair for the reception. Stools for sitting, I chose these durable stools. I chose these stools for OPD area as well, for the pet parents to sit while their pet is undergoing some IV fluids, etc. And for the seating area, I chose this settee. I chose not to go with some cushiony or some leathery material on top of it, because of course our patients are pets and they can easily damage them.
A table and chair for your cabin.
Cabinets for storing the medicines. A fridge of a small capacity for storing the vaccines, medicines, etc. This can cost you about 12 to 13,000. So the furniture that you just saw costed me about 30,000. Then the fans, exhaust fans can cost you about 15-20,000, and 4 wireless CCTV cameras costed me about 10,000 with installation, and for that I needed Wi-Fi connection that costed me about 3,500.
I haven't included the price of electronic items like AC and geyser, as you can choose to have it or not based upon the location of your clinic and also the current season in which you open your clinic.
Let's also talk about sponsorships. There are pharmaceutical companies and food companies that can help you set up your clinic under some conditions. For example, they can help you sponsor your clinic's board, but with a 70% is to 30% display. That is, 70% display would be used by them for their own company's branding, giving you 30% for your own private design. They also give you posters of their company related to pets that you can post, and in return you would have to keep the food of their company and sell it out. So this is usually done by food companies. When we talk about pharmaceutical companies, then they give you certain amount of money that you can use in building up your clinic, and in return you would have to give them business of an X amount within a certain period of time. Now coming to a very important topic, which is the permissions or the licenses needed while opening a new clinic. You would need State Veterinary Council registration certificate, then Udyam registration for opening your current bank account, and then biomedical waste management certificate. And that's it. You do not need any other permission separately for opening a new clinic,
as long as you do not associate in selling of animals and birds.
And no other license is needed for sale of medicines if a doctor is opening a clinic. Now coming to biomedical waste management that has to be done. So there are set guidelines for the biomedical waste segregation and management that is generated at the clinics. So there are various documentation work needed for that, and you can approach biomedical waste management private limited companies for that, which can get your work done in less time, and of course they'll charge some fee for that. So for actual biomedical waste disposal, you would be provided with yellow and red poly bags and a white and a blue container. 1 kg poly bag would cost you about rupees 200, and these containers, which are of 6 liters capacity, would cost you about rupees 300. So only once these bags are filled, you would dispose them to the man who would come for collection after sticking these barcode labels. The white container is for sharp objects like needles, scalp pains, blades, etc., whereas the blue one is for glass vials, ampules. Yellow bag is used for cotton, gauze, tapes, bandage, anatomical waste. The red bag is for IV plastic bottles, plastic tubings, syringes, catheters. Now of course the policies and the charges would vary from one state to another. I got my registration work done through a company, and they provided me with all the documentation work. The documents that I was given were Biomedical Waste Management Agreement, Delhi Pollution Control Committee certificate, and of course these poly bags, containers and the barcode labels. So they charged me rupees 30,000 for all these things, including the documents, and every year I would have to pay approximately rupees 14,000 for the biomedical waste renewal and rupees 3,800 for the barcode label renewal. Now coming to Udyam registration. In order to open your current bank account, Udyam registration is needed. You can either get it done yourself for free via YouTube guided videos, or you can take the help of your CA. Once your Udyam registration is done, you can now open your clinic's current account, and all the future transactions can be done through that account. Now coming to the printing items. So you would need of course your visiting cards, the health record of your patients, if you do not have any software at the beginning, and honestly at the start of a clinic you do not need software because things would be manageable, and then of course the prescription pads, bill memo would be needed, and then vaccination and deworming cards for your patients, and all the printing items that I just mentioned can cost you about 8,000 for about 100 copies. You would need stamps as well. A stamp of your clinic, a stamp of your own name and your degree, and a clinic stamp of proprietorship. So clinic stamp and a proprietor stamp would be needed also for opening your current bank account. Now coming to the last and the most exciting thing, which is your clinic's board. So as compared to a flex board, the ACP board would be a little more costly and more attractive as well. The price of that would of course depend upon the size of your board and the letters that you choose to incorporate in it. So my board costed me about 23,000. And then last, the miscellaneous items like dusters, dustbin, room fresheners, stationery products, etc. that would cost you about 3 to 4,000. And so summing it up all, you can start your pet clinic with an initial investment of rupees 5 to 7 lakhs. So yes, that's it for this video. I hope that it would be little bit useful to you, and if it was, then please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Vet Visit, then yes, please do. Do share this video with your friends who are opening a new clinic or they're planning to do so. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram and Facebook, then yes, please do. While subscribing, do hit the bell icon so that you're always notified whenever a new video comes up. I'll see you next time. Till then, take care of yourselves and keep loving animals like you always do.